Hello, man. Buenos dias, buenas tardes, buenas noches, or wherever is the time where you are right now. Just a couple of years ago, I used to basically chase gears all the time. That was the main relationship that I used to have with gears, where I would just be the man that was always behind them, trying to get just a little bit of attention for whatever it was, right? Just for them to give me a little bit of physical touch, appreciation, some kind of love. Anything that I could get from a gear that I like would be something very important for me, and I would just chase that as much as possible. And this would be even with gears that weren't, all that. They were just normal gears. However, in my mind, I would make them like they were a goddess or such a great person, or that they were so beautiful and I was the only one that could see someone like that, and that they would deserve a ton of appreciation. That basically is like, in my mind, I was justifying myself why I was giving them that much of importance. And obviously that wasn't good for me because I was going for gears that weren't that much of a thing, and besides that, they didn't even like me back. So imagine. And that was like my modus operandi for a while, until one day when I was around 16, there was a gear that I had like a big crush on it. I would say that this was like even major than any other gear that I ever liked. In my mind, she was like out of my league, like it was impossible for me to just get along with her. Out of nowhere, we were just like, like going out with friends and all that. And she said, like around the time when we met, she actually liked me. That really opened my mind a lot, because I thought in my mind that I wasn't enough for these girls, so I would like go to the other ones that were more like likable for me to get along with them, right? And she explained me that she saw that I was like flirting with other girls. That was why she didn't show that much of the attraction that she had for me. A couple of months after, I ended up like kind of dating this same girl, after she confessed me a little bit that she kind of liked me and everything. And during this period of dating, retaking that conversation that we had before, she said something that I would never forget, that a phrase that has been sticking with me since then. And she said, no matter what happens in the future, you cannot date girls that are worse than me. That will be an insult. All that taught me how important it is having standards when it comes to the gear that you want to be with. And that is what I want to share with you today. My name is Jesus Noya. I'm a Venezuelan sex coach with the goal of helping men to last longer in bed, become sexually dominant, and be more attractive. All this while avoiding deadly mistakes that I made through my sex life. This comes from my years of dating experience in South America, and also all the struggles that I had to go through, like premature ejaculation, performance anxiety, and non-existent sexual confidence. Today what I want to share with you, as I said, is how important having standards is when it comes to your relationship, attracting girls, and also for how it's going to be reflected in your sex life. That way, you're going to be able to increase a lot the probabilities for finding the right woman for you. And just very quick, remember that if you're experiencing things like premature ejaculation, performance anxiety, or if you just want to accelerate the process for you to become a sex god, you can go and click the link in the description right now, and that way we can work together on making that reality for you as soon as possible. But now let's jump to the video. Before I ended up having this whole mindset, I learned a bunch about the standards. I went through a period where I dated, not even like dating seriously, when, like we're boyfriend or girlfriend, or where we have like, a couple of rules, but more like we see each other from time to time. We know that there's a little bit of attraction, some kisses here and there, just not that much of a serious thing. I had that thing with other gears that, to be honest, that I was a little bit like embarrassed of like being with them, like some girls that I would even find that as that attractive, that I would find it even like ugly a little bit in their faces. And I know that this can be mean, but I'm talking like, I'm being honest, right? That's how I felt. Obviously, I would still enjoy the time that I was like being with them. I like the kisses and everything, the physical touch, like going out. That was still enjoyable. But in general, it wasn't that like deep full of how a relationship or the time that you spend with a woman that you really love could be, right? It wasn't to that level. It was like, just enjoyable from time to time. Let me tell you that all those situations that I went in, like ignoring all this fact that I wasn't that comfortable, they all ended up very, very bad. This was mainly because I was like dating girls that I knew that they have big flaws that I couldn't ignore, but because I didn't have standards at all, and they would be giving me like what I wanted, that was just a little bit of physical touch or attention, that was enough for me. But these flaws were cause problems in the future. Like for example, one of these gears that I was flirting before, once we like ended up like cutting things for some things that I did, she started to say, like I was like a weirdo, that I would like basically all the girls that would go in front of me, that I was someone, let's say, disgusting when it comes to attraction, right? This also came from the fact that as I didn't have standards, I would place a bunch of gears on a pedestal just because I like them a little bit, even if it was just a little bit of like sexual attraction that happens a lot when you are like in your teenage. In my mind, it's like I would be open to date, flirt, and be with those girls, maybe even have sex with them if the situation was like properly set up. And when one of the girls that I was chasing ended up realizing this, she spread that, and it just ended up very bad for me, right? Basically, no other girl would want to date me after that. And this is what basically happened to the men that don't have standards at all. You have no standards, so you're open to chase and like put on a pedestal, like give a lot of importance to basically every girl, and that makes you seem like just very needy, like you're just up to date whatever it comes, right? And that means that you have no value. This is something that just turn off women a lot. A man that can just like just put his dick in any hole available. And it's funny because you have low standards, so you can be with girls, and because of this you're like basically cutting the probabilities for you to be with any girl. Also, if you happen to have some girls like be into you, this is still gonna be trash in general, because the most of the girls that you're gonna get, if you don't have the standards for the girl that you actually want, probably going to get with girls that are like ugly, losers, low quality, and it sounds like I'm insulting women in general, but in the same way as a lot of men are like this, men that are ugly, losers, and low quality garbage men, there are a lot of women that are similar to that, like the female version of that. And you're gonna be with those girls because you are open to that. In Venezuela, for example, we have a joke like calling those guys like Pokemon masters, because they're always like catching monsters, like girls that are super ugly, or comebagres, that is like this fish that is like super ugly, that has like some bigots or something. It's just guys that are open to basically fuck and be with women, even if they're like super ugly. It's for the sake of ejaculation. And men know this and feel kind of shameful for it. And sometimes when you spend time with a girl like this, you end up like being in a relationship just for like how things go with the flow, and ends up being like a total dead relationship. Like it was dead since the beginning, just even before going into it, because it's very very hard for love to be born when the conditions are that, right? When you're with someone that you not even appreciate that much, like genuinely appreciate. The most dangerous thing for this is that you also open the gates for a lot of crazy women. Like if you're not looking at the red flags that they showing, or you're seeing them and you decide to ignore them because like fuck it, I'm just gonna take whatever. That's when we're talking about women that can like cancel you, put you in jail, like like sue you for being like a rapist or something, talking bad about you on the internet, or even like getting pregnant on purpose, right? Like you may think that this is a little bit like paranoid, but you would be surprised with how many women like that are out there, right? And we could avoid all this just by basically thinking for a little bit what we want. Having standards only have benefits. But like only benefits when it comes to dating and sex, right? Because you're like putting like a filter to only be with girls that you like and love and feel a lot of attraction for. Because of that, the relationship is going to be mainly great, because you're getting good girls that have values, the values that you want in a girl, the values that you want in a woman. Increasing with this the probabilities of like deeper connection and love. When you are a man that have standards, also it's like the attraction that other girls have for you, because you differentiate from other men that are just up to date whatever, right? It's like they see that your value goes a little bit upper because you're not up to be with everyone, right? And as a big plus, sex is just like 1,000 times better, right? Because the kind of sex that you have with a woman that you genuinely love and you have like a lot of compatibility, like genuine sexual chemistry, is infinitely times better in comparison with a girl that just like that, like it's not that much of a thing. Like yeah, you can like just fuck with her from time to time and it's funny and everything, but compare that to being with a girl that you genuinely feel like a lot of sex drive and attraction for. A girl that's also in love and attracted for you, and because of this the passion is just like even like tangible in the air. All this comes from just having a little bit of standards when it comes to choosing your girl. So what are those standards? First of all, we have like the physical standards, and even if it sounds like shallow or like it shouldn't be that important, like the main thing is her personality or whatever it is inside, like this sounds very sweet and everything. The problem is that if you're with a girl that you don't genuinely like, it's going to come up as a problem eventually, right? You're just gonna feel like that awkwardness all the time. I was with a girl that was like this before, like not that long ago, actually, and she was like very sexy, like she had a beautiful body, and I actually agree with a lot of things that she thought, but and this may sound like bad coming from me, right? But her face was, just like awkward for me to see. And sometimes even when having sex and everything, like her expressions and all that, like it would even turn me off a little bit. Anytime that I was thinking like for the future, thinking a little bit about marriage and children or how it would be when I present her to my friends or my family. And I always thought that I would be like a little bit ashamed that this would be like the girl that I was going to be with or commit, right? That was like in the long term thing because of her face wasn't that attractive for me. For the long term was already like not a fit. And in the short term, it was always like this kind of awkwardness with sex mainly, but also when it comes to like discussions and everything. Sometimes I would like just focus on her face and it was like, dang bro, like it wasn't like she was like super ugly, but it was still just uncomfortable. Compare that with being with a woman that you think that she's like the most beautiful woman in the world, like the most beautiful thing created ever. I know that this may sound like a little bit exaggerated, but there are gears out there that you probably gonna think like that. Like you probably have seen this kind of gears on social media, like you think they have like a perfect face, right? Like they're just beautiful and perfect. That kind of feeling is what you want to have with the girl that you're gonna be with. Like thinking that she's so beautiful and gorgeous, like she has such a pretty face. And even with her body, like you feel like sexually attracted to her. Like you think that she, in a physical way, is like perfect for you. It's all that you want. So those are the physical standards. Then it comes the personality standards. That is basically like how much she vibe with you. Like what kind of personality do you want her to have? You may want a girl that is a little bit more shy, like a little bit more reserved, others that are more like loud or outgoing, ones that like going out, one that doesn't like that much. Like that's very up to you as long as she vibes with you. And let me tell you that this is very important also when it comes to the sexual interaction, because a lot of the sexual chemistry and a lot of the passion actually comes from the personality and how much she get along with you in the same flow of talking and speaking and moving more than even the physical thing, like the physical part. For example, something that turned me off is this kind of women that are like too vulgar and aggressive and have like this kind of Vinci mindset for the way that they speak and they talk and the way they treat almost everyone. I don't like that, right? That's a part of the personality that I don't like in a girl. And I'm not gonna lie, sometimes it can be sexy. I have seen girls like this, but in general it's just like not that I'm not that much into that, right? When the personality that she has is not that compatible with you, you're gonna see that maybe sometimes during sex it's gonna be like just having sex with a bowl of raw oats, right? Because it's like nothing there that you actually feel that much of chemistry. There's a girl, for example, that I met last year. She was cute and have like amazing values, and I could see that she was like, it would be great to be with a person like that. But when it came to the personality and the moment that we started to speak and everything, it was like there was basically absolutely no compatibility between us. And I just knew beforehand that that wasn't going to end up well. So I recommend you to take that as something important. And the three kind of standards that I consider is like the most important part is her values. Like basically the things that are the way that she goes through her life. Like things like her religion, her political views, how she conceives health or love and relationships. Basically it's like the way that she sees the world. This is super important, especially in the long term. Okay, like maybe the beginning of the relationship could be great, all the sex and everything is going well, but it's like a time bomb that is going to explode no matter what you do. You guys are going to have a collision eventually. I have this problem with one of my ex-girlfriends actually, and that's why things ended up, because even if she had like top of my physical and the personality standards, when it comes to the values, they weren't just the same. She was a little bit more on the side of like feminism and thinking that body count didn't matter and that this was like a kind of oppression towards women. Some men think that that is crazy, but she was a very intelligent person. I understand what she was trying to say, but those weren't my values, right? I just had a different way of thinking and conceiving the world, and it was something important for me in a relationship and for the future. So things just ended up. And it was super painful and difficult to go to that breakup because it was someone that I knew that I vibe with a lot. And I knew that I could be with her for a very long time because she basically had everything else, but I couldn't ignore those things, and I knew that since the beginning. I still went ahead, and that's why I was suffering all the things that I had to suffer in that moment. So the values that you want in your woman is something very important to have in mind because it can like save you a lot of BS and problems and pain in the future. You may feel tempted sometimes to like ignore that and think that she is gonna like change her mind at some point, and that's a probability, but I wouldn't recommend it, to be honest. Like, it is better to be with a woman that already have those values, and instead you kind of start like build things with her just more and more up, right? Because if you have experience with girls, bro, you know that how difficult it is to go through a relationship and build something genuine with someone. So now that you know all this about the standards, this is my recommendation to put it into practice, right? Like to put it in a practical way. Even if it sounds a little bit cringe and it may be a little bit awkward, write them down. Standards that you have for the gear that you want to be with. Like actually take some time and think, like visualize in your mind which one is the kind of woman that you're gonna be with, that you want to be in a relationship with, that you want to be dating, that you want to be in love, that it's gonna be the mother of your future children, like the wife that you're gonna spend the rest of your life with. Like take some time to describe her in her physical part, the personality, the values that she has. And even if this sounds a little bit neurotic to do something like that, it's going to help you to have that clear. It's not like you're going to be every day like reading those things, or anytime you meet a girl you're gonna like look at the standards again. It's more like once you are like materialize, like put in paper or in a document what you want, is a little bit clear in your mind. You have like a point of reference of what is important for you. And now you time you happen to be with a girl that may not have those standards, it's going to like pop up in your mind like, oh, okay, this girl is not actually what I want. Like she's good in this and that, but there are other things that I just don't want in my life. That's something that's going to save you a lot of time and pain, and this is just for taking some time to write down those things. So just go and do it when you have the time. Now that you have this in your mind, I would say also don't avoid dating at all. Like this is a mistake that I see a lot of men doing. Like they have the standards for the girl, but they start to like portray in their mind like there's no good women out there, or that there's not absolutely anyone that could fit those standards. Like, bro, just go and date the girl and actually find out if she have those things. Like just from like seeing her from the outside, you're not going to meet her as a real person, right? You're gonna see that once you start to like date her and spend some genuine time with her. If it's something super obvious, like you see her doing drugs every weekend, okay, that you know that that's not a good fit. But in general, with other things a little bit more like specific, just try to don't assume that much from a girl. Like take actually the time sometimes to date. Be open to date in general, right? Like with girls that you feel that there's that attraction in there and you think that they have potential. Don't be totally close to dating. And another mistake that I see sometimes is that some guys usually think once they're dating a girl like too far ahead of marriage and having children, and as soon as they see like a couple of things, they see like, okay, this girl is not a fit, I'm just not going to continue the relationship with her. I see that a little bit of a mistake because like people is always like trying to change and improve, and this is obviously like a reality for women. Like you may want a woman, for example, that's going to be like your housewife and she cooks amazing, but you may like girl that have all these standards but she doesn't know how to cook, and then you say like, okay, she's not a fit, I just going to end up things with her. Like, no, bro, like that's something that she can learn. She may even want to be a housewife as well, but she doesn't have this skill. It's something that takes time for her to learn and build. So it is not necessary to cut things off. To put it simple in four things, I would say first of all, when you're already dating someone, when you see a girl that is great and everything, think about the traits that you can take around your standards. Sometimes it is difficult for a girl like fit on absolutely everything that you want. If you find one like that, like perfect, okay, go ahead. But sometimes it's gonna be like she's perfect on absolutely everything, but there's one standard that she doesn't have. You have to think like really deep into yourself and look if you're up to take that out. Like if you're up to take that trait for the person that you have. For example, she may be perfect in absolutely everything, like she's beautiful, same religion as you, values, personality, everything is going great, right? But one of the things that you like in a woman, like the physical standard, is that she have like big boobs, right? But she doesn't have, like she have like, like meat. If you think she's perfect in everything, but she doesn't have this, you may want to probably take the trade on that. If it's something that's going to like turn you off, or you're always gonna be thinking like, yeah, she have a beautiful body, but it ain't all that, or like you think that you're just getting complacent with her, like it may not be the right decision to take the trade, right? But if you think the other hand, like she's absolutely perfect, yeah, I would like her to like have bigger breasts, but it's not that much of a thing. Like obviously go ahead and take the trade, right? That's what I mean, right? Like sometimes there are standards that are good for her to have, but at the same time it's like you could live without those things. And also I would say when there are other standards like in her personality or her values that there are things that she may change, I would say like try to give her like a little bit of time, right? Like see how the relationship goes, how important is for her that thing that may be bothering you. And if you see that she doesn't change and that thing is something that she's not like up to take away from her life, feel free to cut the relationship, because sometimes if you try to like change her all the time, this is something that she's going to resent. She's going to like feel bad about you, like you're a manipulator, like you're all those things. And it's not worth it to go ahead with a relationship with your like label as that. She's going to feel bad, you're going to feel bad. So it's better to just like go down the relationship. However, there are other gears that are going to like either have this value beforehand or that are going to develop it when they go to a relationship with you. Let's say that, for example, like you're a Christian and she's an atheist, and you guys go through a relationship. This is something super important for you and that you can take a trade out. But for her, it's like, it's not that much of a thing. She doesn't give it that much of importance to the fact that she's an atheist. And it's like to like show her about God and the church and the religion, and she started to like find it like genuinely like interesting, to the point that she started to like even find God on herself because of how you've been showing to her. That's something that can happen, like you give time to it and see how it develops. However, if she's still like on her thing of like like there's no God, like God is bad, like religion are like manipulative and that kind of stuff, again, feel free to cut the relationship there, because it's something that you cannot ignore and that is going to be bothering you all the time. It is better to be with someone that aligns to your values. With all this said, and just before I end, I want to tell you that in your mind, probably, if you're like having all these standards and you think that your girl is going to be like that, some men start to think like, okay, but how do I find this woman? Like there's no women out there like that. And even if they are not going to be into me. Like, am I not like asking for too much? And this is when I say the phrase, like, the higher the standards, the higher you. Like, if you want your women to be someone exceptional, you have to be someone exceptional as well. You basically have to become the man that deserves to have that woman. In the moment that girl that you want sees you, she's going to also think that you're such a catch. In the same way that you're gonna think that of her. You may be tempted at some point to like lower your standards to get a like a higher chance of being with someone, but don't. Like, stick to whatever are your standards and go for it. That is going to like push you to also be the best version of yourself. You work constantly on being the man that can attract that kind of women. That's a big benefit of having high standards, because you're gonna have high standards for you as well. You, for example, may want to be with a girl that is like slim waist, beautiful legs, big bottom, and because of that, that you just can be like a fighter, right? That you're going to have like go out there and work out and look attractive and start to be like a more of a powerful and masculine body for you, so you can be able to attract those girls. That is how this works. Higher your standards, the higher you. Focus on doing that for a while, and you're gonna see how much of a difference it makes with being the man that just say whatever it can. Imagine when you start to be this version of yourself that is starting like that beautiful and loving woman that you always dream of. Like, it was kind of impossible for you to even think that you were going to meet a girl like this. And now it's happening. That is something possible, but a lot of men cut their own wins and thinking that it is like too good to be true. It is possible, but if you're not putting effort or like doing anything for make it happen, bro, it's just not going to happen. That's how it is. You have to put the effort on it, and I highly encourage you to start to do that. So have your standards and work to be the man that deserve having that kind of girl. Again, man, remember that if you're experiencing things like premature ejaculation, performance anxiety, and if you want to be able to accelerate the process for you to become a sex god, you can go and click like the link in the description right now, and we can work together to make that a reality for you as soon as possible. Besides that, man, I hope all this has helped you, and I'll see you later.